The phone starts ringing at 2:17 a.m. I almost don't answer because I recognize the number. It's my husband, the same man who left me 6 months ago, the same man who ran off with my cousin and told me I was holding him back from happiness. I let it ring once, twice. Then I hear it through my bedroom wall. Sirens, faint but getting louder. My stomach drops like I'm falling downstairs. Something's wrong. I answer on the fourth ring. Hello. His voice is shaking. Not angry like before, not smug like when he packed his bags, terrified. Marin, please. I don't know who else to call. The police are here. They're arresting me. I sit up in bed, my heart pounding. What? They have handcuffs. They're reading me my rights. His voice drops to a whisper. She's here with me. Your cousin. She's crying. We don't know what to do. I don't say anything. My throat feels closed. Because 6 months ago, this man stood in my aunt's living room and destroyed my life. Now he wants me to save his. Marin, are you there? Please, I'm begging you. Can you call a lawyer? Can you help us? The sirens are so loud now I can barely hear him. Whatever they did has finally caught up with them, and somehow, after everything, I'm still the person he calls for rescue. But to understand how we got here, I need to go back to the beginning. 6 months ago, I walked into my aunt's house for what I thought was a normal family dinner. But when I stepped into the living room, everyone went quiet. My husband was standing next to the couch with a suitcase at his feet. My cousin stood beside him, holding his hand. Marin, he said, not looking at me. We need to talk. The room felt like it was spinning. My aunt was staring at her hands. My mother was frozen by the kitchen door. My cousin finally looked up, but her eyes were red like she'd been crying. I'm leaving, he continued. I'm sorry, but I can't pretend anymore. I haven't been happy for a long time. I couldn't breathe. What are you saying? He squeezed my cousin's hand tighter. I'm saying I'm in love with someone else, someone who understands me, someone who doesn't make me feel trapped. My cousin flinched, but didn't let go. The silence in the room was crushing. I waited for someone to say something, to defend me, to tell him this was wrong. Instead, my aunt cleared her throat. At least it's staying in the family, she said quietly. The floor tilted under my feet. This was planned. They all knew. My family had orchestrated my humiliation, and I was the last to find out. How long? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My cousin couldn't look at me. 3 months. 3 months. While I was planning our anniversary dinner. While I was talking about buying a house together. While I was believing we had a future. He picked up his suitcase and walked out. My cousin followed without looking back. The door closed, and I was left standing there with the people who had watched my marriage end without saying a word. After the door closed, the silence swallowed everything. My aunt went back to folding laundry. My mother started clearing dishes that weren't dirty. Nobody looked at me. My name is Marin Hale. I'm 32 years old. I work as a nurse at the Children's Hospital downtown. I've been married for 8 years, or I was married for 8 years. I'm not sure how to say it now. Standing in that living room, I realized something terrible. This hadn't just started 3 months ago. The quiet conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. The family gatherings I wasn't told about until after. The way people's eyes slid away from mine during recent visits. I'd been quietly erased, one small exclusion at a time, and I hadn't even noticed. Marin, my mother said finally, maybe you should go home, get some rest. I looked around the room one more time. These people were supposed to love me, supposed to protect me. Instead, they'd helped orchestrate my humiliation. No, I said, tomorrow won't be clearer, but I will be. I walked to the door, past family photos that would need editing now. When I reached for the handle, my aunt called out, Marin, don't do anything you'll regret. I turned back. I already did. I trusted all of you. Then I left. I drove home alone, knowing nothing would ever be the same. The exile began immediately. The photos started showing up online 2 days later. My husband and my cousin at restaurants I'd never been to, holding hands at the farmer's market we used to visit together, smiling at concerts while I worked weekend shifts. My phone, which used to buzz with family group chats and dinner invitations, stayed silent. When I called my mother, she sounded tired. People need time to adjust, she said. This is hard for everyone. Hard for everyone? I'm the one who got betrayed. You're also the one making it difficult. Your cousin is family too. The family group chat continued without me. I could see the red receipts when my aunt posted photos from Sunday dinner. 12 people. No invitation for me. When I finally asked about it, my mother sighed. We didn't want to put anyone in an awkward position. I understood perfectly. I was the problem now. My presence made things complicated. My absence made them simple. So they chose simple. The Thanksgiving invitation never came. I waited until the Wednesday before to call my mother. Your cousin is hosting this year, she said, sounding genuinely surprised I didn't know. It would be awkward, for everyone. That Thursday, I ate dinner alone while my social media filled with pictures from what used to be my seat at the table. My husband carved the turkey. My cousin served the pie I'd made for 8 straight years. My mother posted a gratitude message about family bonds being stronger than temporary troubles. Temporary troubles. That's what my marriage was now. But the real surprise came in December, when the bills started arriving. Credit card statements for accounts I'd never opened, late payment notices for loans I'd never signed, all with my name, my social security number, my address. At first, I thought it was identity theft, but when the credit card companies read back the signatures on file, my stomach dropped. The signatures were almost right, close enough to pass a quick glance, but the M in Marin was too tight. The loop in my last name too wide. Someone had practiced, but not perfectly. The billing addresses were places I'd lived years ago. Information someone would only know if they'd been in my life for a long time. $8,000 in debt I didn't know existed. My hands shook as I called my husband's phone. He answered on the first ring, sounding almost relieved. Did you forge my signature? I asked without preamble. Silence. Long, guilty silence. I can explain. We were short on money, and I knew you wouldn't understand. I was going to pay it back. My vision blurred. You committed fraud, using my name. It's not that simple. We were married. Legally, what's yours is mine anyway. We're separated. And even if we weren't, stealing my identity is a crime. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. But looking at the bills spread across my table, I realized this was already bigger than he thought. When I told my family about the debt, they turned it back on me. Are you sure you didn't sign anything and forget? My aunt asked. Stress can make people confused. You're letting bitterness make you paranoid, she said finally. This is exactly why people were worried about how you'd handle this situation. I stopped trying to convince them. Instead, I started documenting everything. I opened a new bank account, put fraud alerts on my credit report, and started the long process of disputing charges I never authorized. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It was realizing that my family would rather believe I was losing my mind than accept that my husband had committed crimes. I spent February quietly separating my life from his. I froze my credit reports and changed every password he'd ever had access to. My lawyer was a woman named Carmen who specialized in fraud cases. Stop thinking about this as your marriage ending, she said. Start thinking about it as identity theft and financial fraud. Because that's what it is. We filed police reports for every forged signature. Most creditors couldn't provide signatures that matched mine because they didn't have any. He got sloppy, Carmen explained. Probably assumed you'd never fight back. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control. By March, the cracks in their relationship were visible to everyone. My cousin started calling family members in tears, complaining about money problems and trust issues. She'd discovered some of the debt he'd racked up in my name. He told me it was all handled, she said to my mother. He said Marin had agreed to help with the transition costs. Transition costs. That's what my identity theft had become. The family's tone started shifting, not toward me exactly, but away from him. People stopped posting pictures of happy family gatherings, but nobody apologized to me. Nobody acknowledged that they'd dismissed my concerns while supporting someone who was defrauding their own family. A week later, my great-aunt called me. She was my grandmother's sister, 92 years old and sharper than people half her age. I need to tell you something about your husband, she said. This isn't his first time. She told me about Holly, a girl he'd been engaged to before me. Same pattern. Started seeing someone else, made her think it was her fault, then her bank account was emptied right after he left. Your mother knew, my great-aunt said. I tried to warn your family 8 years ago. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the credit card bills. This wasn't desperation. This was a pattern. A way of moving from one relationship to another while taking whatever he could carry. The first text came in late March. Casual, like nothing had happened. Hey, quick question. Do you remember how we set up that joint savings account? I didn't respond. He tried again the next day. Then again. By Friday, the tone changed. When this all comes out, remember that I tried to handle it quietly. When what comes out? I screenshotted the message and sent it to Carmen. Whatever he was worried about was bigger than identity theft. The rumors started in April. Quiet whispers at first, then louder conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. My coworker mentioned hearing something about fraud investigations downtown. Carmen confirmed it when I called. There's a criminal investigation. The district attorney's office is building a case. What does that mean? It means your husband could face felony charges. That evening, my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Marin, we really need to talk. There are some things happening that you don't understand. His voice was different. Not angry, not desperate, scared. The calls started coming more frequently after that. His panic was growing stronger each day. My cousin had gone completely quiet online. My great-aunt reported that she'd stopped coming to family events altogether. Still showing up, but he looks terrible, she said about my husband, always checking his phone. The investigation was closing in, and his panic was becoming impossible to hide. My mother finally called me directly in early May. Her voice was careful, like she was reading from a script. Some people think you might be able to help smooth things over, clarify the situation. You want me to lie? Not lie, just simplify things, for everyone's sake. Mom, he forged my signature on legal documents. He stole my identity to rack up debt, and you want me to cover for him? I want you to consider the impact this could have on the whole family. For 32 years, I'd been the daughter who smoothed things over, who kept peace at any cost. I'm not lying for him, I said quietly. And I'm not lying for any of you. I don't understand who you've become. I've become honest, I said. You should try it. 3 weeks later, another call came at 11 p.m. This time, he was crying. Marin, please, the police were here today. They had a warrant. They took my computer, my phone, all my financial records. I know you hate me, but they're saying I could go to prison, real prison, for years. Where's my cousin, I asked. She left. Last week, moved back with her parents. She won't take my calls. So she'd abandoned him too. When the consequences got real, she'd run. You know me. You know I'm not a criminal. Can't you just tell them it was a misunderstanding? I can't help you, I said quietly, because you spent 8 years lying to me, and then you spent 6 months stealing from me. I don't know who you are. If they ask me questions, I'll answer honestly. That's all I can promise you. I hung up before he could respond. The call came from Detective Williams in late June. We've been investigating multiple fraud complaints involving your personal information. The total amount exceeds $25,000, which makes this a felony. $25,000, more than I'd known about. We'll need you to come in and provide a formal statement. Carmen was quiet when I told her. This is serious, Marin. Felony fraud with this dollar amount could mean real prison time. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I recognized my cousin's writing. Can we please talk? Just the two of us. There are things you don't understand. I deleted the text without responding. The next morning, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my uncle standing on my porch. There might be some questions asked about your situation, he said, not meeting my eyes. If anyone asks, it would be really helpful if you could clarify some of the details. You want me to say I authorized fraud? They're still family, Marin. They made mistakes, but they don't deserve to have their lives destroyed. What about my life? What about what I deserved? He didn't have an answer for that. If anyone asks me questions, I'll tell the truth, I said finally. The look on his face told me everything. Even now, after everything, they thought I'd lie to save them from consequences they'd earned. Detective Williams was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. Her office was small but organized, files stacked neatly, everything labeled. You are not in any legal trouble. You're the victim here. She had copies of all the forged documents, signature after signature that looked almost like mine but wasn't quite right. Can you identify which of these signatures are yours? Out of 23 documents, only 2 had my actual signature. Everything else was forged. We have phone records showing he called several of these companies pretending to be you, voice recordings where he claimed to be your husband calling on your behalf. My stomach turned. He pretended to be me? Multiple times. The credit card companies have recordings. After the interview, Detective Williams walked me to the lobby. Based on what we have, charges will likely be filed within the next 2 weeks. For the first time in 8 months, I felt something close to peace. Not because he was in trouble, but because someone official had finally listened to me. But the investigation would reveal one more surprise. The postal worker knocked on my door, looking confused. This came to your address, but it's got the wrong apartment number. The last name matches, so I thought you should see it. Inside was a court summons, not for me, for him, but using my name and address in the legal documentation. A civil lawsuit from one of the creditors. According to the paperwork, I was listed as a co-signer on a $20,000 limit card that was maxed out and 6 months behind on payments. Carmen spread the documents across her desk. He's not just stealing your identity for small purchases. He's using it for major credit lines. It means he's in much more trouble than identity theft. This is major fraud. But it was what happened the next week that would finally bring everything into the open. Because my cousin was about to discover that running away doesn't make consequences disappear. I was leaving the grocery store when I heard the shouting. Across the parking lot near a beat-up Honda Civic, I saw my cousin arguing with 2 men in suits. They had badges clipped to their belts. I moved closer, staying behind a row of cars. The detective was holding up documents. "Ma'am, we need you to come in for questioning. You're named as a beneficiary on several accounts that are under investigation for fraud." My cousin's voice was high and panicked. "I don't know anything about fraud. He told me these were joint accounts. We're together. We're building a life. According to bank records, you've been making withdrawals from accounts opened with forged signatures. That makes you an accessory." "I didn't forge anything." "No. Ma'am, you can explain all of this downtown. Right now, we need you to come with us." I watched as my cousin looked around desperately, probably hoping someone from the family would appear to save her. Her eyes swept right past me, hidden behind the cars. She started crying then. Not delicate tears, but ugly, panicked sobbing. "This isn't supposed to be happening." He said everything was legal. He said his ex-wife had agreed to help with the transition. The detective's voice was patient but firm. "Ma'am, step toward the vehicle, please." As they led her away, I heard her say one more thing. "I want to call my mother. I want my family." But her family wasn't coming. Not anymore. I drove home in silence, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just the quiet understanding that consequences had finally arrived for everyone who'd chosen to ignore the truth. The investigation was moving faster than anyone had expected. And the arrest that would bring everything full circle was only weeks away. 2 weeks later, I was working a night shift when Carmen called me at the hospital. "Marin, you need to know. They're making arrests tonight, your husband and possibly your cousin as accessories. It's happening now." I looked at the clock on the break room wall. 2:15 a.m. "They wanted me to warn you, he might try to call." As if on cue, my phone started ringing. I stared at his name on the screen, remembering all the times I'd answered his calls, all the times I'd smoothed over his mistakes, covered for his lies, made excuses for his behavior. This time, I almost didn't answer, but I needed to hear this. I needed to know that it was finally over. "Hello?" His voice was shaking, terrified. "Marin, please. I don't know who else to call. The police are here. They're arresting me." Through my phone, I could hear everything. The sirens Carmen had warned me about, the shouting, my cousin crying in the background, neighbors coming out to see what was happening. "They have handcuffs. They're reading me my rights." His voice dropped to a whisper. "She's here with me, your cousin. She's crying. We don't know what to do." I could hear my cousin in the background, pleading with the officers. "This is a mistake. We're supposed to be together. This is supposed to be our fresh start." but there were no fresh starts built on stolen foundations. Marin? Are you there? Please, I'm begging you. Can you call a lawyer? Can you help us? The sirens were so loud now I could barely hear him. Whatever they had done had finally caught up with them, and somehow, after everything, I was still the person he called for rescue. But I wasn't the same person who would have dropped everything to save him 6 months ago. I can't help you, I said quietly. What? Marin, please. You spent 8 years lying to me, 6 months stealing from me. You convinced my family to exile me from holidays. You made me question my own sanity when I told them you were committing fraud. I could hear the police officer in the background. Sir, you need to end the call now. And now you want me to save you? Marin, please, I'm not going to protect you from the truth anymore. I hung up. The arrest made the local news. Not front page, but a small item in the business section about financial fraud charges. His name, his age, the amount stolen. My phone started ringing immediately. Family members who hadn't called in months suddenly wanted to talk. We didn't know it was this serious, my mother said. I told you it was serious. You said I was being paranoid. We thought it was just marital problems. We didn't think he was actually a criminal. But they'd been wrong about a lot of things. And their being wrong had cost me months of isolation, humiliation, and financial damage. My cousin disappeared completely. Her social media accounts went dark. When my aunt mentioned her at family gatherings, people changed the subject. She'd learned what I'd learned the hard way. When you choose the wrong side, sometimes you lose everything. My husband was released on bail, but the conditions were strict. No contact with me. No access to financial institutions without supervision. No leaving the state. My great-aunt called me that evening. How are you holding up? I'm tired, I admitted. But okay. You should be proud of yourself. For what? For not letting them convince you that you were crazy. For standing up for yourself when nobody else would. That night, I sat on my balcony and watched traffic move through the city below. Somewhere out there, people were dealing with their own betrayals, their own families who chose comfort over truth. I couldn't save them. But I could be proof that it was possible to survive being erased and find your way back to yourself. The plea deal was announced in August. He would serve 18 months in minimum security prison and pay full restitution. In exchange, he'd avoid trial and the possibility of a longer sentence. My cousin never faced charges. Her lawyer argued she was also a victim, that she hadn't known about the fraud. Whether that was true didn't matter. She was gone either way. My family's reaction was complicated. Relief that it was over. Embarrassment about the publicity. Guilt about how they'd treated me. But nobody apologized directly. Instead, I started getting invitations again. Birthday parties, Sunday dinners, holiday celebrations. We'd love to have you, my mother said when she called about Labor Day. It's been too long. Too long. As if I'd been on vacation instead of being deliberately excluded for choosing truth over family loyalty. I declined politely. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. These people had shown me who they were when it mattered. They'd chosen his comfort over my safety, their peace over my truth. Maybe next time, I said. But we both knew there probably wouldn't be a next time. My great-aunt understood. You don't owe them your presence just because they're finally ready for it. She was right. I'd spent 8 years making myself smaller to fit into other people's comfort zones. I was done shrinking. By September, I'd found my rhythm. Work was good. My supervisor had promoted me to charge nurse, recognizing skills I'd developed during the crisis. Managing my own case had taught me things about documentation, advocacy, and standing firm under pressure. I moved to a new apartment across town. Bigger, brighter, with a balcony that faced east so I could watch sunrises. I painted the walls colors I liked, bought furniture that fit my taste, created a space that was entirely mine. The restitution payments started coming monthly. Not huge amounts, but steady. I used them to rebuild my credit, to take a vacation I'd been putting off, to create an emergency fund that no one else had access to. I dated a little. Nothing serious, but enough to remember what it felt like to be chosen instead of abandoned, to have conversations with someone who listened instead of dismissing. Most importantly, I stopped waiting for my old life to return. The woman who'd been married to him, who'd trusted her family implicitly, who'd smoothed over problems she didn't create. That woman was gone. The woman who replaced her was stronger, lonelier sometimes, but free. Carmen had been right months ago. This was never really about my marriage ending. It was about learning to protect myself when no one else would. And I'd learned. I'd learned to value my own voice over other people's comfort. I'd learned that silence doesn't equal consent. I'd learned that family isn't just blood, it's choice. I saw them one last time in October. I was leaving the courthouse after finalizing some civil matters when I spotted them across the street. He looked smaller somehow, wearing clothes that didn't fit right. She walked beside him, but not close, like they were strangers sharing the same direction. Neither of them saw me. I watched them disappear around the corner. Two people who'd blown up multiple lives chasing something that had turned out to be worthless. I felt no anger, no satisfaction, just a quiet understanding that some chapters close completely. My phone buzzed with a text from my great-aunt. "Dinner Sunday? I'm making pot roast." I smiled and typed back, "I'll be there." She was my family now. She and a few friends from work, my neighbor who checked on me during storms, people who'd chosen to know me as I actually was, instead of who they needed me to be. It wasn't the family I'd been born into, but it was the family I'd built. People who celebrated my promotions, who remembered my birthday, who showed up when I needed them. The phone call that had started this story, when he called at 2:17 a.m., as police arrested him, felt like it had happened to someone else. The woman who'd almost answered, who'd felt obligated to rescue someone who'd destroyed her life. That woman would have said yes, would have driven across town to help, would have lied to police, would have sacrificed herself again for people who'd never done the same for her. I was glad she was gone. Walking to my car, I realized something that surprised me. I was happy. Not despite everything that had happened, but because of it. I'd lost a marriage, a family, an entire life I'd thought was real. And I'd found myself. If you've stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. If any part of this feels familiar, if you're the person keeping peace at your own expense, if you're protecting people who won't protect you, I want you to know something. Your truth matters more than their comfort. Your safety matters more than their convenience. And you are stronger than you think you are. Sometimes, the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are. What you do with that information is up to you. But you always have the right to choose yourself. Because here's what I learned. When someone destroys your life and then comes crawling back for help, you have a choice. You can save them again, or you can save yourself. I didn't ruin his life. I just stopped protecting him from the truth.